Level up your LA Kings experience with the new Vivid Seats Elite Seats. All the on-ice Kings action with even more exclusive access. Enjoy great seats to the game along with premier dining inside the Lexus Club with all-you-can-eat food and non-alcoholic beverages. Plus, get a free Team LA Kings item and parking with your purchase. Score your Vivid Seats Elite Seats tickets today and earn rewards on each purchase from the only ticket company that rewards you for buying. Experience it live with Vivid Seats, the official partner of the LA Kings.
You're listening to an LA Kings podcast. For more episodes of this and every other Kings program, visit lakings.com/podcast.
And now Fabry for Anaheim. Across to Zegras off his stick, and the Kings send it right back down. Now a turnover in. Score! Alex Laferriere! Just like that, Laferriere gives...
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings.
And the Kings look to set it up. Fiala outside the left circle, up high to Kempe. Right side to Clark and to Fiala. Down low, Kopitar at the goal line. Centers, score! Laferriere tapped it in on a nice feed.
Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
Welcome back, Kings fans. I'm Jesse Cohen. This is All the Kings Men. It's Monday, so we're crowning another King of the Week, and this week we're joined by Eddie Garcia. We'll also be taking a look at the week of games coming up for your Kings with Jack Jablonski, but first, a conversation with Kings forward Alex Laferriere. Hope you enjoy it. Joining us today, courtesy of Vivid Seats, LA Kings right winger Alex Laferriere. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm good, yeah.
And
good
featuring
morning.
Zach Dooley. How are you doing today, Zach?
Jesse, I'm doing well.
Perfect. Alex, it's no secret that you went to Harvard, and I swear this is the only Harvard question I'll have, because I can't imagine it's fun for you to have it constantly brought up. Andrzej Kopitar once said one of his favorite television shows was Suits. I asked you before we started recording if you're familiar with it. You said yes, so you know that the firm in Suits only hires lawyers from Harvard. Mm-hmm. And at one point, there's a quiz among the not the students, I don't know what the word is, the lawyers about Harvard. And one of the questions that stuck in my mind that I want to ask you is, if I had to get square pizza at Harvard, where would I go?
Pinocchio.
Okay, that's the right answer for anybody who never watched the show. So Pinocchio's is a real place.
Yeah, it's a real place. Yeah, stays up pretty late. So, we had a couple late nights where we ended up there for some pizza, and yeah, it's a great spot.
Now, I had never thought about this before thinking about what to ask you, and this came up in my mind. I've had square pizza before, but I never thought to call it square pizza. In my mind, it was just pizza that happened to be cut in the shape of a square. Am I missing something? Is square pizza a thing? This is to both of you.
What's the difference?
I don't know. Like, back home, my dad loves like the grandma style pizza, I think it's called, and that's like square. But I don't know if that's like a thing.
Because I've had like square pizza that's like a round pizza just cut into a square.
Right.
But then also the big squares, which are totally different. Like I don't know, what's it called? Sicilian
Pizza?
style, or
I don't know.
Like there's different kinds for sure. Like there's the flat square and the big.
In my mind, square pizza means the crust is usually slightly different, and that's about it. The rest of it is just pizza. Anyway, now that we've gotten that taken care of.
Do they only cut their pizza into squares at Pinocchio's?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Do you miss it at all? Like, where's your pizza place in Southern California if you're in the mood for some Pinocchios?
I don't know. I haven't really gotten pizza much here. Pitfire pizza I've gotten a couple times, but it's more of like a personal pizza, so it depends, I guess.
So you've been in Southern California for, what are we going on, almost a year and a half now. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like a Southern Californian?
I would say no, just because I think the time on the road kind of takes away from that. But I think if you're from California, you're in the sun a lot, and so I guess like when I'm home, I'm like that. But I wouldn't. I still think I tend to be like a East Coast guy.
If you had one thing, if a friend of yours was moving to Southern California from back east, and you had to warn them about one thing, what would it be?
That there's no Taylor ham, egg, and cheeses.
Taylor ham, not pork roll?
No, Taylor ham.
Right.
Yeah. That's
getting
my
the hard hitting stuff out of it.
Yeah, that's my go-to breakfast when I'm at home. So when we go there in December, I'm gonna have to make sure to get some of those.
Did I get that right? That's the debate: Taylor ham versus pork roll?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
I learned two things from your Wikipedia. One of which was that when you were learning to play hockey, you refused to take skating lessons until your sister bribed you with a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwich. Is that true?
Yeah, she would bribe me with Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwiches and Skittles.
Skittles.
Yeah, so she'd put like Skittles on the ice, and I'd have to go skate around and get them. And then if I went and skated, I was able to get a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese after.
So this is a note for our TikTok team. We now need video of Alex Laferriere skating around picking up Skittles with the sound from Family Guy of James Woods. Ooh, a piece of candy.
And also on the New York trip, probably a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese.
Yeah, for sure.
Trip to a local.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Going to dive into hockey real quick. Sorry. This is an issue that has always sort of agitated me. We talked a little bit about it, you and I did last year. And that is when a right shot player switches to the left side. And I'm frequently told, oh, it doesn't matter. But of course, it clearly does. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so repetitive. It would be somewhat random. Last year, you played more on the left side, I think, than you have this year on the right. When you're playing with Kopitar and Kempe, you're obviously playing on the left. Does it matter to you, and how does it change your approach to the game during the game?
Yeah, I mean, my whole life, I pretty much only played on the right side. So switching to the left was a little different for me. But yeah, I think being able to watch someone like Juice kind of play that off wing and see like the kind of little tendencies that he has makes it pretty easy. And I would say there's definitely positives and negatives towards it. I think breaking out a little easier, you're automatically protecting the puck. Going into the zone, you can kind of like, you can face the play a little bit more. But yeah, I think it's just so natural for me to play right that whenever I am playing right, it's kind of easy. And then when I go to left, I just think about those things a little bit more. So the switch has been pretty easy for me.
Most of your goals this season, as I've observed anyway, have come from your awareness of the play. Whether it was a tip or you made yourself available for a pass, you shot against the grain, found open space against the goalie. It seemed to me to be directly linked to your awareness. If you're switching wings, if you're on your offside one shift and back on the other or game to game, does that tinker with your awareness? Are you spending a little, even if it's just half a second of extra time adjusting to the change, or is at this point you're just out there playing hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point it's just natural. I think last year it did take a little bit more thinking. But yeah, I think like no matter who I'm out there playing with, they kind of know my tendencies a little bit. So yeah, I mean, if you look at all my goals, even the tip goals, like it comes off of a great play. Like I think the Montreal goal, like Turks made a great play down low, got it up high. The Columbus goal, like Fogues made an unbelievable play, getting it to Eddie. So yeah, I think for me, it's just kind of finding the quiet ice, and then my line mates are making great plays.
Can you recount all of your goals that you've scored in the NHL? Like the Montreal goal was a month ago. You know exactly what happened on that play. Even last year, could you recount like most of those goals?
I've tried to think about it before. I don't think I could get every single one, but I think I can get most of them. There's not many of them right now, so I think I could get them.
More than most people.
Yeah, 21 more than we have.
Yeah, that too. I was talking to Jim Fox about you recently, and he talked about a conversation that he had with you, and I asked him permission to reference this. He said that your dad had told you when you were a kid to try and incorporate the strengths of your line mates into your game. When did he tell you that, and how difficult is it when you're in a season like this playing on so many different lines?
Yeah, he told me that when I was pretty young. I want to say, well, he was my coach my whole life, like from when I started until I want to say like 14U or 15U. So yeah, he coached me for quite a while, and I'll shout him out. Probably still one of the best coaches I've ever had, to give him a little tire pump. But no, I mean, like, yeah, my team growing up, we had a lot of really good players. I think 4 of us ended up playing at Harvard together from our Mite team. So yeah, I think just growing up, I was always undersized and kind of needed to stand out in any way I could. So yeah, he taught me that, and it is different coming to this level and trying to still kind of look at that, because you're obviously more mature, and there's not at this level, there's not like a ton of growth that happens to your game still, but I think that is something that if I continue to work on, it'll set me apart from other guys. So yeah, I think I've always kind of stuck to that, and it's definitely a good piece of advice.
You talked about being undersized when you were younger. You had a growth spurt a little bit later, right? Like a high school age one. Until that time, did you ever even think like you could advance to even college hockey, or was there like a point when it clicked for you, like, oh, maybe there is a path forward for me?
Yeah, I mean, college hockey my whole life was my goal. My dad played at Princeton and then played at Boston College. So, my whole life I just wanted to play college hockey, and I was definitely undersized, so I didn't really think of that as that big of a possibility. And then I was fortunate enough to go to the Avalanche and play under Larry Robbins, who is an unbelievable coach, and had a lot of resources for us to grow our games. And I think then seeing the success of our team and the role that I had on the team, I knew that it was a possibility. And then I was given an opportunity by Coach Riley at West Point. He offered me a scholarship there, so I verbally committed there, which was my goal my whole life. I'm from New Jersey, and my grandpa and uncle went to West Point, so grew up going to those football games, the hockey games, and that was a dream come true. And then went to prep school and had a really good year, and I was given the opportunity from Harvard.
I played one game in youth hockey at the West Point rink, and it was the coolest game ever because they put our team name on the scoreboard. It was the only time they ever put our team name on the scoreboard. Nice rink. But that was the other thing I learned from your Wikipedia, was that you did originally commit to West Point, which is obviously more of a decision than just where you want to play college hockey, right? Like, was that something you were considering with, the other things that come along with going to West Point is more than just the game, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, I grew up going to the games, and I mean, once you step foot on that campus, you can see how special it is and how beautiful it is, and the history that comes with it. And I think my grandpa and my uncle going through it and kind of telling us the stories growing up, it didn't seem too daunting. So, I mean, I was definitely willing to do it. But I mean, the place there is unbelievable, and the coaching staff was awesome, and I just felt at home there.
At the time of this recording, you've played 101 games in the NHL. Are you aware that you just passed the 100 mark?
Yeah.
The NHL is kind of weird because, obviously you're thinking like, oh, anniversaries, or not anniversaries, but milestones come in 10s, 100s, 50s, whatever it is. An 82 game schedule means that if you're going to play 100 games, you're going to play parts of 2 seasons, but not 2 full seasons. You and I talked about this earlier this season. Was there a moment that you felt like, okay, now I'm in the NHL. This is where I am. I'm not going anywhere else. This is my job. This is my career. This is who I am.
Yeah, a little bit. I would say training camp this year, because compared to last year, I was fighting for a spot, and there really weren't any roster spots open last year. So I think I was kind of just going in, like, trying to put myself in the best position that I could. And then obviously, like, they show the lineups on the boards and what the projected lineup is for the NHL team and all that stuff. And this year actually being on that kind of was a different experience for me, and definitely gave me more confidence going into camp.
So game 79 last year, you still weren't sure that you were part of the team?
Well, no, I definitely, as the year went along, I definitely felt a lot more comfortable. But I mean, I still never knew. I think after my 80th game last year, I saw like a tweet that was saying that I was like, that I needed waivers, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a shock, but I think it's still taking it day by day.
So in a season where you have 10 new teammates, some of them you would have known and been familiar with from previous camps and stuff. Some of them are like Joel Edmondson. I doubt you probably had much interaction with him previously. Now in your second season, you're in the top half as far as guys that have played games with the LA Kings. Do you feel like one of the vets while also feeling like one of the young guys?
I mean, I definitely do not feel like a vet. I'll say that, but, I think it was a lot different this year. 'Cause last year I didn't go to Australia, and, So I think this year being able to go to Quebec with everyone kind of forces you to hang out with everybody. So really got to know the new guys a lot better, and it was awesome.
Not a lot of guys skip the AHL. I know you played 4 games there, but do you ever think about that of like most guys do at least a pretty extended stint in the AHL, and you really never had that experience? You kind of just jumped right to the NHL.
Yeah, I think about it. I definitely got fortunate with I know that they were unfortunate circumstances, but the things that happened last year, right at the start of the season, kind of gave me a chance. And then I always told myself, like, once I get that chance, I'll never give it up. So that has just been my goal since I got that opportunity, and just trying to continue that. So
you played in the USHL, you played for Harvard, and now you've played under 2 coaches in the NHL. Is it a challenge to adapt to a new coaching staff, or is it just a different voice?
A little bit of both. I think it's good for our team to have new voices in there and kind of get new perspectives. And obviously we've had the kind of systems change, so it's good to kind of switch all that stuff up and keep it fresh. And but at the same time, like Jimmy was our assistant coach last year, and I worked a lot with him one-on-one, kind of because it was the beginning of my career. So he was awesome with me at the beginning of the year, last year when he was the assistant coach, and that's continued into now when he's the head coach. And now we have guys like Brownie and Smitty who are Smitty's a big voice and loves to let you hear it. So he's been awesome. And then Brownie's a really knowledgeable guy who's been around for a long time, and I love learning from him too.
This season, the concept of identity has not been as present as it was last season. Are the players aware of those conversations? And if you had to say what you think the Kings' identity is, what would it be? It's tough to say, just because I know we haven't put much of a focus on it as compared to last year. But I mean, it's pretty easy once you walk into the locker room and see guys like Kopi and Dewey. You kind of it's not a vocal identity, but just kind of watching those guys, you can see the team's identity run through those guys. And they've been here for a long time, and they're just unbelievable guys, and they love being leaders. So I don't know. I think just kind of I don't really know how to put that into words, but just kind of like the way they carry themselves is our identity.
How quiet is the locker room without Dewey in there every single day?
He makes a point of it to get in there and give him some crap. So he's been here when we're home. He's around, so it's good to see him.
You talked about the New York trip, beginning of the episode. How exciting is that one coming up? Like, this will kind of go out right before that. Like, I imagine that's probably one of your favorite trips of the year, with so much time spent like in the area that you're from.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's always good to go back home and see family, and I think my grandparents are going to be able to come out to a few games, which is good. They haven't been able to come to a lot of games, so it'll be awesome to see those guys, and hopefully get home for a couple home-cooked meals.
Are you California soft, or would be able to handle the cold? Because I got California soft really fast.
Yeah, it's been switching on me. Like the other day in the morning, it was like 55 and I was cold. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Nobody ever believes it. Alex Laferriere, congratulations on 100 games. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll talk to you before another 100 have gone by.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Joining me now from Locked On, is it Locked On LA Kings or Locked On Kings?
Oh, please, Locked On LA Kings.
Locked On LA Kings.
Or else you get a basketball team up in Northern California. So yeah.
Somebody ought to do something about that. I don't know what there is to be done about it, but someone ought to do something. Anyway, it's Eddie Garcia. Thank you for joining me, Eddie. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So we're covering the last week of Kings hockey here today to crown a King of the Week, and it was a short week, 2 games, and 2 games that were eerily similar despite the opposite outcomes. You had a 1-0 loss to the Buffalo Sabres and a 2-1 win over the Seattle Kraken. And before we get into the King of the Week stuff, Eddie, I was after the end of the Seattle game, I was thinking this is exactly the kind of game that Jim Miller was talking about after the Buffalo game, where he was sort of saying like, listen, if the puck goes in, if the bounces go our way, maybe we're talking about a different game. Well, that's what happened in the Buffalo game. The pucks went in, the bounces went their way. So the Kings wind up going 1-1. Not a lot of questions answered in this week.
No, and I know they did obviously a bit better job in the Seattle game than they did in the Buffalo game of converting on some opportunities. But the 2-0 that they still didn't score on shorthanded, that kind of thing is still like we really need to capitalize when you get those kind of chances. Like those come along maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a season.
Yeah.
So it's not the norm, but when you get those, that was the difference between kind of sweating it out in the very, very end or having kind of a quote unquote comfortable lead there at the end, not quite as tense, but just a little bit better converting on some of those opportunities. Hopefully, there's certainly a goal I'm going to reference when we talk here that I hope can get a couple of things going here in that Seattle game.
It's funny, the 2-0 that resulted in I don't even know if it was technically a shot on goal.
No, the save, he made the save. The court did make the save on that, but still.
But that sort of set the tone, because then for the rest of the game, I feel like there were at least 3 or 4 other, maybe not clear-cut 2-0s the way that one was, but there were definitely other odd man rushes where the Kings were trying to make passing plays. And I feel like it got in their head. And so everything they did after that was sort of a reaction to blowing that chance. Anyway, the drill, the routine. We're going to start with you, your honorable mention this week.
My honorable mention goes to Vladislav Anderson and Mikey Gavrikov.
Right.
I just love what those two have done since they've been put together because of the injury to Drew Doughty. Just the way Gavrikov has really stepped it up, playing on his offside. I know he said it's not a big deal for him, and it looks like it's not a big deal for him because of the way he's played. Just defensively being sound and chipping in offensively as well, which is great. But killing penalties and what they do. The combination of those two guys would be my honorable mention of the week.
With Drew Doughty out, before the preseason began, I was, saying multiple times in multiple places, the only thing we knew for sure going into this season was that Mikey Anderson and Drew Doughty would be a top defensive pair. And then, of course, Drew Doughty gets hurt in preseason, and then you're like, all right, well, I guess we don't know anything about how this season's going to go. Vladislav Gavrikov has been far more impressive than I thought he had any right to be. He's really stepped up his game. And Mikey Anderson has begun to answer the question of, is he a number 2 defenseman, or is he a top, is he your number 1 pair left shot defenseman, or is he just playing with Drew Doughty? And he's starting to answer those questions. I like that submission a lot.
And I love that I love this, if I could, in the Seattle game, especially early on, really looking for his shot. And it's just putting it on net from the point, but that can be big, for the Kings. And, the basics of, we're not scoring goals. What do? Get it to the point, go to the net. It's time intrude, and it make the guys make them block shots, or make the goalie make a save. I love Mikey looking for his shot. I know he's not, got the biggest shot back there or has the greatest scoring touch, but I just like that mindset that he's starting to kind of get used to that now, that, I can look for my shot and try and make a bit of a difference.
I suspect that you and I are going to have the same King of the Week.
I would think so, but hey, we'll see.
There's a really short list. So in order to spread the love around for my honorable mention, I'm going to go with Andrzej Kopitar. He didn't have a goal, but he had 2 assists. He was a +1. In the faceoff dot, 69.8%. And again, in a week where not a lot happened, he winds up with the most points on the team. Plays, I don't know if it was the most minutes, but plays, close to the most minutes. Behind, actually, Gavrikov and Anderson played the most minutes. Kopitar right behind them for third. I'm running out of ways to say it. I said this last week when he made the list as well. Like, there's very little left to be said about Andrzej Kopitar. He shows up to work. He's the best player on the team. He's the captain. And that's, it's Andrzej Kopitar, man.
I'm with you. He's my number 3 star. I always love to check and see, okay, where, he's had a couple points. Where is he now, as far as points and assists all time? Was it, I think he passed Phil Housley for points and Pierre Turgeon for assists this week as he continues to pass Hall of Famers.
Yeah, he's right behind Peter Stastny, I think, right now.
Points. Soon to be obviously in the Hall of Fame himself when he decides to call it quits, but still leading the team in scoring, which you can, I guess, on some levels wonder if that's good or bad, but I choose certainly the good side of that.
Well, here's the thing about that, if I can jump in real quick, because that is a perfectly valid point to raise. If Anze Kopitar was leading the team in scoring and he was on pace for 65 points, then you'd go, oh, you people can't see me, but I'm tugging my collar. You'd go, okay, good for him that he's leading the team in points, but this is really more of a reflection on the fact that nobody else is scoring. At the moment, he's got 23 points in 21 games. That's not, Mario Lemieux territory, but when you factor in the fact that it is still Anze Kopitar and he is still winning faceoffs, he's not killing penalties as much as he used to, but he's still killing penalties. He's still defensively sound. He's more than a point per game player. At this point, I think it's worth pointing out that he's leading the team in scoring.
Agreed.
All right, then you're runner-up for this week.
I'm going to go a little bit with my heart here and say Quentin Byfield. Obviously, I know, I'm sure you're hearing a lot of the same things I'm hearing, and I get it. People have been disappointed with his production this year. I get it. It's not unfair. At the same time, I don't know. There'll be a point in time when we can't say he's still young. But he had the game-winning goal against Seattle, and it was a power play goal. Something he individually needed, the goal, and the team needed to try and get that struggling power play hopefully going. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that a game-winning goal for Q and a power play goal can help get things going for both of those things in the right direction, him individually and the power play as well. I know that the experiment here with the 5 forwards on the power play is intriguing, but the Fiala with the great pass and him putting it in the net it felt big on a couple of levels. So I'm hoping that it can have some carryover.
Not only a power play goal, not only a game-winning goal, but also a goal scored from distance by virtue of him shooting the puck. Jim Fox talked recently about Byfield working on his shot and laying out the types of goals that Quentin Byfield has previously scored: tip-ins, rebounds, plays where he drives the net himself and he makes a move and then is able to score. This was him stationary from 15 feet out, whatever it was, beating
tough
the
angle
goaltender.
Too.
Yeah, beating the goaltender with a shot, which is not something that we have seen a lot from him. And there are some of those in the darker corners of the Kings internet spaces who still hold that against him, who still want to see him show off that skill. So to see that type of goal in that type of moment, I think it was huge. I think he was definitely a player that I considered, but like I said, I think you and I are going to have the same one. So I wanted to spread it around a little bit. So my runner-up is Adrian Kempe, who also had a goal. Byfield and Kempe, the only goal scorers this week. And if the Kings want to see themselves in the playoffs for a 4th consecutive year, Adrian Kempe has to score. Like, that's just all there is to it. We were talking early in the season when Alex Laferriere was leading the team in goals, and I said, this can't be the case at the end of the season. Unless Alex Laferriere somehow manages to score 50 and there's 3 or 4 guys behind him who score in the 40s or 30s.
Oh, I'll take 40, Jesse.
No, sure. 40. But you can't have, a sophomore with all the money and all the talent and all the, experience and accolades on the roster. Alex Laferriere can't be your team's leading scorer. At the moment, Alex Laferriere has 9 goals. Adrian Kempe now has 10. And I'm still not 100% sure what I feel about the phrase streaky. People talk about Adrian Kempe being streaky. I don't know. I think once you start putting up a certain number of points, we can stop worrying about the streaks. But Adrian Kempe seems to be warming up, heating up. So hopefully we'll get a little streak going here. So he is my runner-up.
I was thinking a little bit about Adrian Kempe recently, and I think he has a very underrated defensive game. And I love that he can still play with a little bit of an edge and doesn't take a lot of penalties. He's pretty smart. about picking his opportunities and knowing when he can do something, when he can't do something. So, there's some other players on the team that are not as talented as knowing when to avoid those ill-timed penalties, but he does a good job with that. He's really turned himself into a nice all-around player. But you are correct. What he does best is putting it in the net, and he will need to continue to do that all year.
And when they go to some crazy alignment that Jim Heller pulls out, if they need somebody to play that point, to play that defensive position, it's Adrian Kempe, to your point. So yeah. Definitely. All right. In that case, then we will go to King of the Week. And like I said, we have to agree. If you don't pick the right answer, I'm going to yell at you. So go ahead. Name the King of the Week.
Pretty sure you've got David Riddick as well.
It's David Riddick. Yeah. It's gotta be.
Yeah. Obviously has been very, very solid in for the injured Darcy Kemper. These 2 games this week, 2 goals allowed on 39 shots. I had some big saves too. Big Save Dave is a nice nickname, but he did have some quality stops as well. It wasn't just stopping the shots he's supposed to stop or the ones he sees. The goal he allowed against Buffalo, a deflection on the power play. I don't know many goalies that are going to make that one. And I think he has not allowed a 5-on-5 goal in his last 3 games, I believe, because the other goals he allowed, I believe, were with the extra attacker. So, right. Not 5-on-5. Right. So, he's been solid. What a bargain as well. When you take that into consideration, I think he could have had shutouts, in the games against Seattle and Detroit last week. So he's been solid. And again, you want him to be solid when he gets his time, but in this particular situation where your number one is out and he's got to be put in there, I don't know that you could ask for much more from David Riddick.
Oh, I don't think you. I suppose you could be psychotic and ask him to get a shutout every single game. But yeah, allowing only 1 goal per game is the only reasonable. Can't ask for anything more than that. Again, they go 1-1 this week, not of any fault of David Riddick's. Stops 37 of 39 shots in both games, 949 save percentage, 1.02 goals against. And earlier in the season, or maybe it was the preseason, I don't remember, we talked about what the goaltending tandem would wind up looking like and who would play more minutes and blah, blah, blah. And I believe it was Jim Fox. Apologies to Jim if it wasn't, but I believe it was Jim that said, if Riddick gets a shot at being the number 1 goaltender, it has to be because he's playing well. It can't be because Darcy Kemper is struggling. At the moment, Darcy Kemper's not struggling. He's just not available. He's on the IR, but David Riddick is playing well. He's playing incredibly well. Yep. And, the Kings are in the Pacific Division's a weird division this year. I think the spread between the top of the division and the bottom of the division is 4 points. Yeah. It's not, Seattle's got 21 and Vegas has 28, but the gap between Seattle and the Kings is only 4 points. 4 points.
You look where Seattle was, and if they had beaten the Kings, they'd have pulled even in points with them. So your point is definitely well taken.
So, the expression I've been sort of using is while the Kings are waiting for their injured players to return, Drew Doughty chief among them, they're kind of treading water. And as long as their record is keeping their head above water while they tread, then fine. Figure out what this team is when everybody's back. But in the meantime, you have to win games. You can't just lose a bunch of games in October, November, December and say, well, we have injuries. Yes, you have injuries. Everybody knows you have injuries. But if you want to have a solid January, February, March, April, God willing, May, June, you need to keep playing well in these months. And David Riddick is absolutely contributing to that effort and playing well. So congratulations to David Riddick, this week's King of the Week. Eddie, appreciate your time. Anything you want to touch on before we let you go? Anything you've observed from the Kings recently?
No, I was just going to say about David Riddick. I don't know specifically what the injury to Darcy Kemper is. I've speculated on what it might be, but obviously he's gone down twice this year, and the concern is that this could be something he's going to deal with all year. But it is nice that David Riddick is playing the way he is, and the Kings, I think, can say, all right, let's give him the maximum amount of time that he can to heal. We don't have to rush him back. We're not in a situation where suddenly we're losing 3 in a row, and now, we've got to get him back in there as soon as possible. So not only is it great to see David Riddick playing well because it's nice to have a number 2 guy in case, but under the circumstances as well, Darcy Kemper, no rush, take your time, get as healthy as you can, and then hopefully get back and be as good as you were.
The real test will come on next weekend, well, Friday, Saturday, because the Kings have the Ducks Friday the 29th at 12:30 in the afternoon, and then the Senators at 4 o'clock on the 30th, the very next day. It's not 24 hours. It's, you get 28 hours, I guess. But I doubt they'll play Riddick in both of those games. So either Darcy Kemper's got to come back, or we'll be seeing one of Copley or Portillo filling in one of those games. So keep your eyes open, Kings fans. It's going to be a wild week coming up with Thanksgiving in the mix. Eddie, thank you so much for joining me. Again, people can find you on Locked On LA Kings, either on YouTube or wherever fine podcasts are curated, correct?
That is correct. And again, LA Kings.
Right,
LA
sorry,
Kings.
Locked On LA Kings, yeah.
Not King. No, you said LA Kings.
Okay, all right, good.
You said it correctly. I'm just reiterating. LA Kings, please.
Wouldn't all of our lives be so much easier if the Sacramento Kings moved back to Kansas City?
Well, they'd still be
change
Kings,
their name.
though. Yeah, they can stay in Sacramento.
Yeah,
Just maybe
right.
change the name.
Move the Oakland A's to Sacramento and call both teams the Athletics. Go for
there you go.
There you go. All right, we solved that one. All right, Eddie, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jesse.
Ever wonder what top athletes eat to perform at their best? Superfood Direct, the preferred catering partner of the LA Kings, is here to fuel your game. For athletes, nutrition isn't just fuel, it's the key to peak performance. Superfood Direct delivers chef-prepared meals that help you build strength, boost endurance, and recover faster. With over 11 years of experience, every meal is balanced with the perfect mix of proteins, carbs, and healthy fats to power you on and off the ice. Ready to fuel your greatness? Visit superfd.com/direct and get 20% off your first order with promo code LA20. That's LA20. Time to take a look at the week ahead. 4 opponents this week, 3 of whom the Kings have already faced. Here to help us do that, Jack Jablonski. How are you doing today, Jack?
All is well, Jesse Cohen.
So this is a week that we've all sort of been looking forward to on the schedule because 4 opponents, but 3 of them that the Kings should be able to do all right. They've beaten 2 of them before. The Ottawa game will...
We've also lost to 2 of them before.
Yeah, fair, but let us never speak again of the previous Ottawa game. But first on the schedule...
I hate to break it to you. We're going to speak.
Well, sure. First up, though, the San Jose Sharks, Monday night, 7:30. What do we know about San Jose this time? This will be the 3rd time we've faced them this year.
Yeah, 3rd time. We aren't going to see them until, I believe, the end of March, if I remember correctly, after this game. But we finally get to see Macklin Celebrini. Obviously, Celebrini had been out the previous 2 games that the Kings had played against the Sharks. Due to I believe it was lower body injury. He's back. He's healthy. But the Sharks, yes, they're 6-12-5. They're last in the Pacific Division at the bottom of the standings across the NHL. But they're not playing bad hockey. They've earned at least 1 point in 6 of their last 10 games. So they've gone 3-4-3. All of those 10 games are since Macklin Celebrini has returned to the lineup. Celebrini, 11 games. He's got 7 points, including 4 goals and 3 assists. And while, yes, obviously the Sharks are very much still in a rebuilding phase, they struggle in a lot of categories as a team statistically. But one category that they're actually doing really well in is in the penalty kill. So they're currently ranked 10th in the penalty kill with an 81.8 percentage. But you go back to the previous 2 games that the Kings have played, the Kings are 0-for-8 on the power play. So this will be an interesting matchup for me going forward. As we get into Monday's game, obviously you look at the Kings side of things, they're 1-for-1 in their last game, obviously, with the 5 forward look seems to be making progress and building some momentum and at least a little bit of chemistry. So that's something I'm interested in looking for at that game. When it comes to goals for, they struggle. They're 28th in the NHL when it comes to goals for, 2.83 per game. Continuing to struggle to score goals. They've got 2 goals or less in 4 of their last 6 games. So even with the addition of Celebrini into the lineup, they're still not finding the back of the net too frequently. Another area is they average the second most shots on goal per game, and we'll get to the team that averages the most in about 2 games. But 33.3 shots per game. And then obviously if they do score, it's someone that the Kings have gotten to know in the last year is Mikael Granlund, who obviously had 2 goals in a previous game, or in the first game of against the Kings. So it'll be interesting to see when it comes to who can produce for them. It's not too many people with a lot of numbers, but they do have some offense, and of course you've got to be excited to see what the newest first overall draft pick can do against the Kings. So intriguing. 3 of 4 meetings. March 30th. Yeah, will be their 4th game against each other, but that'll be a little while down the road, and much will change before then.
They're not as bad as they were last year, but they're still, based on points percentage, the worst team in the National Hockey League this season, and they're just 1
not
point.
To be overlooked. We've already lost to them in San Jose once. So
totally, and this is a test. But again, this is a team that the Kings absolutely should be able to beat.
Next up, if you're
sorry.
I mean, just the big thing to me is, if the Kings are going to be a playoff teams beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go 500 against the teams that are all in the playoffs, and that's how you make the playoffs. So, of course, 1-1 to start the season against the Sharks. It'd be nice to go 2-1 after Monday.
Next game on the schedule, the Winnipeg Jets. It's an interesting game, as a test for the LA Kings, but also because the roster is chock full of former LA Kings.
Yeah. I think it's always interesting to go back and, you see where trades panned out. Of course, the Kings went all in to get Pierre-Luc Dubois. That didn't work out. You get Darcy Kemper in return. No question. On Winnipeg's side, they picked up 3 pieces, I believe it was. Did they get a draft pick as well? I can't remember exactly.
Yes,
but
a second.
Of course, 3 guys are on their roster. Yeah, so 3 guys are on their roster come Wednesday's game in Los Angeles that were obviously a part of the Kings organization 2 seasons ago. This is the first of 3 meetings against Winnipeg. 2 of them will be in LA, so that's the good part of it. The other 2 will be in 2025, so we'll talk about that when we get there down the road. They'll hit LA to play their third of a season-long 6-game road trip. So, always you get the cold weather teams coming in the middle of the winter, or at least, I can't imagine Winnipeg's weather is too great right now. So oftentimes teams are much happier to be on lengthy road trips when they're in LA compared to when the Kings have to go on long road trips out east. Where do you begin with them, right? This team is 17-4. They lead the NHL in with the best record. And I think, to me, the first thing that popped out when kind of looking into these guys is their health. Now, they've had barely any adversity when it comes to that category. Of their 18 skaters, 16 of them have played all 21 games this season. The 17th player being Rasmus Kupari, who's played in 20 of 21. And then they have a defenseman in Logan Stanley who played in the first 10 games but has missed the last 11 with an injury. That being said, he's on the trip. We don't know when he will be playing, but he could play against the Kings. So you could see their full lineup, and again, no injuries to deal with. Putting that into perspective, the Kings have had just 11 players play all of their games this season. So a vast difference, but again, you got to play with who you've got in front of you. Everyone's going to face adversity at some point in the season. The Winnipeg Jets, obviously, when it comes to health, have not. They have the league's top power play at 33.9%. They have the second highest goals for per game, averaging over 4. But you pair that with the third lowest goals against at 2.43 per game. Now, no question that starts with Connor Hellebuyck, the one-time Vezina winner and very much the leader in that category already. He's putting up just insane numbers. He's got a league best 14 wins, 14-2, and you compare that also with a league best 2.13 goals against average. He leads the league with 3 shutouts already, a quarter of the way through the season. So again, an all-worldly season for the Jets goaltender. and the American. It's a deep team also. You've got a team that's got 6 players that have at least a +10 rating on the season. I know you're not the biggest fan, or at least you have your doubts about quantifying the significance of the plus minus. But when 6 players have been on the ice for 10 more goals, and they've given up at even strength, I'd call that pretty significant. 11 players on top of that also have double-digit points. I think the Kings have 9, if I believe correctly. And then the 3 people that I kind of wanted to highlight are Kyle Connor, who leads the team in offense with 13 goals and 13 assists. Mark Scheifele, who's been an absolute juggernaut offensively, 25 points. And then, of course, Gabriel Velarde, kind of the centerpiece that the Kings, moved in that Dubois trade. 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points. Second on the team with 3 power play goals. So as deep of a team as you'll get in the NHL, as good of goaltending as a goalie you'll see in the NHL. When you pair those together, you've got a 17-4 Winnipeg Jets team.
So obviously everybody knows about Kupari, Iafallo, and Velarde. I don't want to leave out Colin Miller, because while he never played a game for the LA Kings, he was part of that trade that brought Milan Lucic to LA, and he's gone on and had himself a really nice career, 533 games since that trade. And he's on the
really digging into the well on that one. That's impressive. I like it.
Well, because that was a bad trade as well. So, there's two bad trades haunting the Kings in this game, and
very much benefiting
the
Winnipeg Jets. But it's unfortunate that obviously Darcy Kemper won't be in the game, assuming he's not back to full health by Wednesday. But no question, you've got 3 or 4 bodies in Jets uniforms that once were a part of the Kings organization.
Yeah. And even if they didn't, it's a good test against a very good team, obviously, for all the reasons you laid out. Next up on the schedule, and this is the day after Thanksgiving, so it's a 12:30 p.m. afternoon start in Anaheim, which is a weird start time to begin with. It's also the day after Thanksgiving. There's a million reasons that this game could go the wrong way. I'm just hoping, obviously, because it's the Ducks, that obviously you want the Kings to win every game, but particularly against the Ducks. We're still a few days out from this one, but where are the Ducks going this season? They're not as bad as they were last year.
No, but they're still not great.
Yeah.
And before I kind of dive into the numbers, do you think the Kings players just have like a light Thanksgiving meal on Thursday? Because you got to be up early, or are you on the road? Are they sleeping in, Anaheim the night before? Because it seems like 12:30 to bust down and play or something. It's an intriguing time.
It's a weird one because they have Winnipeg at Wednesday at 7 p.m., which is a relatively normal start time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what the routine of a hockey player is. Game, day off, game. But the day off is like the one day of the year where everybody eats
just
their brains out. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a weird.
It's tough. And then you've got a back-to-back. So it's when you Thanksgiving meals. I don't know. It feels a complicated one. We'll have to find some answers out this week when we talk to the guys. Okay. Yeah. You mentioned Anaheim, again, not the worst, 8-3. So 19 points. Again, it's not far off from where the Kings are but they are 7th in the Pacific Division. Second of 4 meetings this year. The other 2 will also come in 2025. Like San Jose, they've earned points in 6 of their last 10 games, so they're not playing bad hockey. They're also not playing offensive hockey, and we'll get to that. When the Kings come to town, it'll close out a heavy November schedule at home for the Ducks. They're currently 2-4-1 at home in the month, 4-5-1 at home on the year, and they've got a better points percentage on the road, going 4-3-3. So, not the home cooking that you'd want if you're an Anaheim Ducks fan. If you are a Kings fan, it's in your favor. Obviously, the Kings have also beaten the Ducks in Anaheim once this year. So, they have an NHL worst 34 shots against per game. But the goaltending has been absolutely outstanding for them. Lucas Dostal, who started the year as their number one and very much still is in the running. I think it's more of a 1A, 1B now that they've got John Gibson back. But Dostal, with a 5-6-2 record, has got a 924 save percentage. And he also leads the NHL with a 13.7 goals saved above expected. So when you're getting a guy that should be averaging 3.74 goals against, and he's got a 269, he's obviously playing above his weight class, so to speak. You get John Gibson back. He's played in 4 games, and he's gotten points in all 4. 3-0-1 with a 915 save percentage. But again, they haven't been able to score. Offensively, not much has been working. Troy Terry leads the Ducks with 12 points, and we are 20. They're 19 games in, so they haven't played as many games as a lot of the teams in the NHL. But 12 points as a leading goal scorer, point getter is a little rough. And then the last part here is you've got another guy like Leo Carlson who continues to impress as he gets into his second year full swing. He's got 11 points and 4 points in his last 4 games with a goal and 3 assists. A game, again, that you mentioned, Jesse, that the Kings should win, should handle, but another funky scheduled type of game. So, what exactly we're going to get on a Friday afternoon when you should have a food coma, I do not know.
And interestingly, they have 2 games between the time of this recording and the time of the game against the Kings. They're both against Seattle. The Ducks have 19 points. Seattle has 21. The Kings have 25. If the Kings don't take care of business and the Ducks win both of their games against Seattle, suddenly the Ducks have 23 points and the Kings have 25. Now that's, there's a lot of ifs in that sentence, but it's just the way the Pacific Division is breaking and the way the schedules are breaking. It's just weird this time of year.
Well, it's very congested, from 2 to 3 to we'll just go to 7. Obviously, you've got a San Jose Sharks team here that has 17 points, Anaheim with 19. You win 2 or 3 games in a row, you lose 2 or 3 games in a row, and you could easily be on the outside looking in, let alone, in 6th or 7th in the division if the other teams take care of their own business.
Yeah, and between the Ducks and the Sharks, yes, it's only 2 points, but the Sharks have played 4 more games than the Ducks. They're a 370 points percentage to a 500 for the Ducks, and the Sharks are a minus 27. The Ducks only, using heavy finger quotes, minus 9 in the goal differential. So even though they're close in points, there's still a huge gap. All right, final game of the week is the second game of the back-to-backs for the Kings, and it's the Ottawa Senators. And I know I said I never wanted to talk about the previous Ottawa Senators Kings game again, but I guess we kind of have to here.
Yeah, we don't have to dive too far into it, but
I just hope we don't get a repeat of the last one. I don't think I can take that. Right now.
Every time that the Kings have had one of those insane, not only double-digit combined goals, but 15, like it seems like they always respond with a much tighter defensively sound game, which is obviously much more up our alley. Of course, this is the second and final game between the two as the Eastern Conference opponents, or as the Kings face off against the Eastern Conference guys back in October. This will be game 2 of 3 for Ottawa on the California road trip, and then they head back home. It seemingly a good time to play them. They're on a 5-game losing streak. They're 0-4-1. And while they do have 2 games between now and Saturday's game against the Kings, comes at home against Calgary and then on the road in San Jose before they meet the Kings in Los Angeles. They have not been able to keep the puck out of the net. They rank 24th in goals against, which is an average of 3.24 per game. But in the 5-game losing streak, they're averaging 4.2 goals against. So again, Linus Ullmark, who came across the border in the Boston trade during the offseason, has struggled. He's 4-7 on the year, but he is, of course, someone who can very much lock you down if he's playing the game the right way. They rank 15th in goals for at 3.1, but they do rank fifth in power play percentage. So again, a team that can obviously put the puck in the net, 28.8%, and they're 3 for their last 6 on the power play. Highlighted by Jake Sanderson, the defenseman at the top of the point, who ranks tied for second among defensemen in NHL power play points at 10, compared to just 2 even strength points on the season when obviously not on the power play. 3 guys to look out for. It's a little bit of a 3-headed monster before it gets a little bit of a drop off in terms of offensive production. No question, Tim Stützle, who Kings fans are very aware of, given where he was drafted in the 2021 draft, I believe. Was it 21?
I think it was 20.
Yeah, it was 21.
Was it
20?
I don't know. The COVID years.
Clarkie 20.
Yeah, 2020.
So 2020 third overall draft picks. Tim Stützle, 20 games, 9 goals, 15 assists for 24 points. Captain Brady Tkachuk, 20 games, 21 points, 10 goals, 11 assists. And then Drake Batherson, who's been a long time coming up, was a big prospect. I believe he might have been the Erik Karlsson trade, if I believe correctly. 20 games and 20 points for him. So he's finding his footing playing top line minutes as well. Again, Ottawa, 8-11-1, 5-game losing streak. A team that a lot of people predicted would be in the playoffs finally this year. They very much have the offense to do it. Can they keep the puck out of the net? That's the real question for their organization right now, defensively and obviously in net. So, like you said, Jesse, 3 games of teams that are sub 500, or I guess the Ducks are technically at 500, but 3 teams that are ranked 7th or worse in their division. And then, of course, you get the top team in the NHL sandwiched in between.
And this is not an opponent on the schedule, but it is something on the schedule that I will be making a note of. I'm sure they'll talk about it on the telecast a ton. And that is that it's Thanksgiving, right? And there's that stat out there looming that whatever it is, 90% of teams in a playoff spot by Thanksgiving stay in a playoff spot. I mean, it changes every year, but nothing is written in stone. But this is a situation where the Kings, earlier in this season, if you wanted to be critical of them, there was always the rebuttal of like, well, look, they're in first place in the division. They're in second place in the division, whatever you want to call it, as early returns. But now they're in third place in the division. They're only 3 points out of first place in the division, but only 2 points out of falling out of the wild card spots. And Vancouver is right there. Seattle's right there. And I can't believe I'm saying it, Anaheim is not a team that you can write off just yet, although I think ultimately they will be. So this is a test for the Kings, as all weeks are, but in this case, the test is just, can you take care of business? Can you continue to collect the points that are available to you? Jack, thank you so much for joining me.
You got it, man.
And I hope you have a good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody listening has Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to everybody again soon.